Hails and well met, and welcome to my Dankest Dungeon. I'm your host, Mally Nim, and today within these dank walls I bring you a series I like to call Dankest Dialogue. A show where I interview ttrpg actual play creators to nerd out about their campaigns and more. In my dungeon today I'm joined by Gob the Goblin. Hail, Gob. Welcome to my Dankest Dungeon. Please, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I am Gob the Goblin, your friendly neighborhood cookie mancer, a bit of a variety streamer, a bit of an artist, and a bit of a voice actor. Hello!
Thank you so much for joining me for this interview, Gob.
Oh, glad I could make it. I mean, it was kind of hard to get down here, but yeah, we found a way.
How I start every interview, the first question is always, how did you get into TTRPGs and how did you become a dungeon master?
Oh boy, that is a long story. I think it was about the year 2007 when I started getting into that sort of stuff. It was just one of those high school things where a bunch of buddies were just like, hey, have you heard of this game you want to try playing? And we didn't really do much in the ways of just like, okay, here's a class, here's this, like, we didn't really follow the rules then. Like, it was, I think, around 3.5 edition that we were trying to play, but it ended up just being us rolling a d20 to see what would happen and, like, fighting zombie Jesus. Just, like, ridiculous scenarios we would come up with.
Nice.
Yeah, it was sort of like on and off back then, but I think when I started, like, really getting into the TTRPGs was around, I believe, 2018, when a coworker of mine, I found out that he was a dungeon master, and I really wanted to get back into it. I had such a good time with it, and his playstyle just blew my mind. Like, I spent a year as his player, and after, like, listening to him, like, rules jargon and just, like, throw around his calls and all that, I was just like, I should really give that a shot myself. So I started to just, like, build my own homebrew world. I started, like, making all these characters, and it just kind of took off from there.
Nice. So you got started. How many campaigns or games did you run before you actually started getting into actual plays?
I believe it would end up being 2 campaigns. One where I was the player, and then one where I attempted to do what I do now, and it just did not work. Like, the players kept turning against each other. When a player died, they're just like, I'm gonna make a character, and it's gonna hate your character in particular. I'm just like, I had no control over what my players were doing because I had no control over what I was doing with my world. So I ended up, like, abandoning that for about 3 years. And that was about the time I started discovering VTubing and giving it a second shot. And that's kind of where the actual play came up and Scheduled Conflicts was born.
I know that sucks that you had a rough beginning with your players, but it is XP gained.
I mean, absolutely. It was a very big learning experience to know, like, in what ways I was overcomplicating scenarios and stories, and times where I just wasn't stern enough to my players. It kind of gave me a chance to, like, build a backbone and twist my brain a little bit to understand what it really means to be a dungeon master.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. So, you mentioned Scheduled Conflicts. 96 freaking episodes, including the epilogue. Congratulations on completing that campaign, first off.
Thank you so much. A campaign 2.5 years in the making.
That's wild. I am impressed and inspired. In fact, if you want to know something, you were one of the first VTubers I saw doing an actual play campaign, and I thought, damn, I'm inspired.
Oh, thank you so much. There's been so many other VTuber groups I've seen that have like made those efforts to do what a lot of other D&D content creators are doing, and that's just like fleshing out this interesting campaign for people to watch. I mean, there's just so many that I could list off, but just I made my attempts to be as unique as I could be in the sphere, and I think we did pretty good.
I am attempting to do that as well, be unique, but not about me. We're talking about you. Scheduled conflicts. Let's start from the beginning. Your inception, your ideas, your inspiration for this campaign.
So, Scheduled Conflicts started as my first attempted campaign back in 2018, before it became an actual play. It was still the same universe I set up, the world of Eos, but a lot of its characters played a bit differently in what I would consider the beta test of it. The gods weren't actually gods back then. They were actually devils who usurped the gods. And that's kind of where things got a bit overcomplicated, because I'm like, okay, so they're actually evil beings usurping the deities, the good beings, and somehow like inheriting their goodness, but they're also kind of evil in the background. And you can see how this just starts becoming this cyclical loop of just like, okay, I'm not really justifying this world very well. So Scheduled Conflicts ended up being the second attempt at just simplifying, just leveling the playing field, simplifying everything, and giving a more fleshed out world a chance, when back then I didn't have everything fleshed out the way I wanted it to. I mean, a lot of things inspired Scheduled Conflicts. I would definitely give credit to Matthew Mercer, the folks at Critical Role, for helping inspire some of the ideas I had. I was a huge fan of their D&D book, their Wildmount book, and just how every little bit of that book had a scenario in it where you could just play around with your players at any level. As for like the name itself, it was a pretty interesting story that we spent way too long brainstorming like a name for this whole thing. Just like, all right, we need to sound cool, we need to sound original, we don't want to sound like some rip-off of some other group. And everybody but one person was throwing ideas around, and the one person who eventually got it was my good friend TJ Omega. He was the wizard in our party and a very good friend of mine. He was just like, and like, I'm gonna be paraphrasing him a bit, but it was just sort of like, oh hey TJ, you haven't said anything. What's your idea for a name? And he's just like, I don't want to sound like it's a stupid name, and then like turn around and you're just like, that's actually the best name we could have ever thought of. We like, he just threw out Scheduled Conflicts, and we had to just like Google it and double check, like that sounds like somebody took it already, but no, nobody had thought of that before, and it just stuck with us. So I give full credit to TJ Omega for coming up with the name of Scheduled Conflicts.
And it is such an apt and fitting name.
I mean, it works so well on so many levels. Just the fact that, like, hey, if we do miss a Thursday, it's kind of on brand because that's our whole namesake.
Exactly. I love that. That's so cool. So you mentioned the world of Eos. This is your homebrew world that this 96 episode campaign took place in. Tell me more about the creation of this world.
So the name Eos is definitely indicative of my inspirations with like the original D&D content. For people who don't know, Ao was supposed to be the god of gods in one of the Dungeons and Dragons pantheon. You know, the person who made the gods to send them out and be like, make something. So I essentially just took inspiration, or completely just took from that, and just called the world that I placed them on Eos. And it was just this stirring world of primordial energies, just the fire, earth, water, air just collapsing in on themselves in this just spherical world. Like, there wasn't really anything living there except chaos. Then eventually a meteor would come down and pacify everything. This was supposed to be the introduction of the gods.
Nice. That's really cool. I did not put 2 and 2 together. I know the god Ao from back when I played Neverwinter Nights and, D&D in general, but I didn't even think that the name came from that. I love that.
Yeah, that sort of came from watching a lot of those YouTube videos, those like deep dive lore videos into the worlds of D&D, like Dragonlance, like Neverwinter, like you said. And I think the funniest thing I like to tell people is that this whole concept was brought about by a single song. This idea that kept perpetuating in my mind. I'm just like, I want to take this song and sort of turn it into a world. And that song is Year Zero by Ghost.
Oh.
Where you just have these like it's all like biblical references of devils and demons and all of that, but it just gave the idea of these like very powerful beings lording over everything, and I kind of wanted to take that idea and bring it to life. So that's kind of how like the devil origin came into play when I first made it, but then I realized that was kind of dumb and switched over to like, okay, so they're gods. They're living gods that walk the earth and lord over humanity in a very direct way. These are titanic beings. They cannot be bested, and the people who have tried have failed.
Very cool, very cool. I love, I'm a big music fan too. Ghost, that's cool. I get inspiration from music a lot of times as well, metal bands and metal songs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Metal has a very soft spot in my life, and I take inspiration from it wherever I can find it.
I freaking love that, dude. So, elevator pitch. If I were to ask you about the campaign, 96 episodes, if you were to sell me to watch this actual play, do it now.
Oh, you had to get me with the elevator pitch, didn't you? Scheduled Conflicts is its own one-of-a-kind universe in the land of Eos, completely made from the ground up. Its pantheon, its people, and its players, which are all fellow VTubers like myself.
And you have an amazing group of players as well, Gob. I've been able to catch a few episodes, and yeah, your players really bounce off of each other, and I love the dynamic.
Oh, thank you. These were such good friends that I handpicked one by one, just sending out my feelers out to all my VTubing friends, just like, hey, I have this idea. And Ruby, the charity goblin Ruby, was like, before I even finished the sentence, they were like, I have 3 characters. I want to throw them at you and see how they fit. I'm just like, oh, okay. We are ready to go with this one. All right.
I love it. I love when the player excitement is so palpable. Yeah. But yeah, I love when the players are so excited.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of them, they've been burned by a lot of campaigns that either failed due to scheduling conflicts or just these terrible disagreements or bad memories that they've had with other players in the past. And a lot of them have reached out and spoken to me like, hey, this is like the first fully fledged campaign that I have been able to do since my last experience. And to put it lightly, I helped bond a relationship in my campaign with two of my players.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, two of my players are now dating thanks to my D&D game, which is so weird to think about.
But really cool. Really freaking cool. All right, next up. I know it's going to be difficult, but between all 96 episodes, what would you say are some of your most favorite moments from the campaign?
There are so many different spots that I enjoyed from essentially like what I call the Gallius arc, which is like the pirate portion of the adventure. You could tell by watching it that the pirate stuff was the most fleshed out idea I had, because I've always wanted to do swashbuckling adventures, and I sort of invented this sort of Tortuga that they can all gather around and just interact with one another. But if I were to like put out some of my other favorites aside from all the pirate shenanigans, there was this one character in particular, this really dumb orc character that I built to just like run a stable outside of a city. And just the interaction that the players had with this person as he was slowly and methodically trying to count gold pieces one by one is just hysterical. Like, the characters would keep interrupting him, so he would have to start over because he got distracted by people talking to him. It was like 5 attempts at this until the players got smart and they're just like, all right, here, just let him do his thing. And we'll just shut up. It was one of those moments where I'm just like, all right, the goal here is to stop the players from talking for 5 seconds and just let the NPC do his thing.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I mean, they eventually got the horse and caravan from him, but it was painstaking hours just trying to get him to count gold. I think that would have been one of my favorite moments.
Feel free, if you have any more, lay them on me.
Oh, let me think for a second. I mean, sure, that was one of the funny experiences in the whole thing, but there were some very serious moments too that got people on the edge of their seats. The betrayal of Ophelia, essentially attempting to kill Payne's father figure and like the head of the vampire house that they were serving. That got people really riled up to do something about that.
Ooh, spicy.
Well, yeah, because Ophelia, for those who might not know, is I believe it was either like a former NPC or a former player character that one of my players gave me permission to use in the universe, because they never really got their closure in their last campaign, and they were just like, hey, can you take this character and sort of spruce them up for your world, because I want to see them have an ending that they deserve. So I was just like, I happily took on that task, and I think I did them justice, or at least I think Payne thinks so.
Very cool, very cool. That's one of my favorite things when I run games, is taking the players' NPCs and using them as I wish. Well, with a little guidance, of course.
But if I'm going to be 100% honest, one of my favorite moments was of the eventual and inevitable reveal of what the final boss was all about. This is a thing that I had in my mind since 2018. Like the song Year Zero, the whole concept of these devils turning gods, like it all culminated in the final boss battle when I finally revealed how it all was meant to be. And I give full credits to Goblin, one of my artists, for just bringing one of my gods to life in such a powerful and visceral way.
Oh, that's so satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, I've thrown this picture about, but I'm just gonna send that one to you again.
All right, it will be shared in the show and tell portion. Look forward to that in a few. Another question, looking back, any regrets or would you have done anything differently during the campaign?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I was able to have explored better. I know our character Payne, the rogue in our party, he was a Dhampir that served a specific vampire house, the House of Blood. And I had fleshed out several vampire houses. There was the House of Blood, the House of Bones, the House of Dreams, and they were all supposed to be their own like cult amalgamation, sort of like Vampire the Masquerade. It was supposed to be this like huge underground cabal of secretive vampires who are just trying to get by. And I fear that I didn't explore that well enough in this campaign for how much I had set up for it. I mean, sure, like season 2 and stuff like that, you can always like go back to it in like a second round and fill in the gaps that you might not have explored in the first campaign, but there's always going to be that feeling of just like, man, I really wish we could have done more with that, or like I really wish my players pushed that direction a bit more. But you know, sometimes you bake a pie and all they want is cake.
Yeah, that's relatable. I understand, but hey, maybe not even in the next season. Maybe you could have like a vampire side story or some such.
That is definitely something I'm thinking about, though it's not really on paper yet. It is definitely an idea I want to throw around.
Nice. That would be really cool. A subject that I want to bring up with you, because I'm used to different virtual tabletops like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, but you chose Tabletop Simulator for this campaign. How was it using that tabletop for the campaign?
I mean, I've been using Tabletop Sim since I started with getting back into D&D back in 2018. It's the platform that I am the most familiar with as far as like the software is concerned, of just like being able to interact with the maps, being able to upload your miniatures from Hero Forge, which is an absolute godsend when you want to depict your virtual avatars of your characters or your bosses, your NPCs. The fact that Tabletop Sim allows Hero Forge is incredible, and I wish I was sponsored by Hero Forge, but unfortunately I am not. Because I use their miniatures all the time for our tabletop. And one of the big reasons I continue to use Tabletop Sim is because of the Steam Workshop. The Steam Workshop comes with all of the fan-made content and all of the fan-made uploads of just 3D miniatures, board games, cards, you name it. That Steam Workshop for Tabletop Sim has everything you could ever want for a 3D D&D experience. If you want the entire monster manual of 3D models, you got it. It's on there. You can download it and slap it on the table whenever you want. If you want to throw Warhammer 40k miniatures as your final bosses or like your big bad evil guys, they have it. Like you look up anything on Tabletop Sim Steam Workshop and it is on there. So I 100% enjoy using that one over many other styles because it's not like rigid to just like stuff like roll d20 where you actually have to have the rules formatted into your game. You don't have to fandangle with like grids or just syncing everything up with your players or anything. That it's like it's all 3D interactable. Like you handle what you want to handle in Tabletop Simulator, whereas in other formats you don't really have much of a choice.
Very cool. I thought it was a little overwhelming when I saw everything that you put together. I was like, well, I don't know if I could ever try that, so that's why I stuck with what I knew, but that's very inspiring to give it a try.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to work with as long as you're able to start with baby steps. Then the whole world opens up for you.
Hell yeah. And I can relate on the Hero Forge as well. 100% of my player models and like 95% of the NPCs in my campaigns were Hero Forge models. I was blessed to have a talented Hero Forger as one of my players in Ruby the Lazy Goblin, so that's very cool. I bet you she would love to see her models 3D in Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, I would love to see Lazy Goblin Ruby's work on Tabletop Simulator. They are just paragons for that platform of theirs.
Oh yeah, 100%. I am blessed to have her as a player. We will get into show and tell, and I think we're going to have a great segue, but right before we do, any future plans you wish to discuss?
Well, I've made it no secret that there will be a season 2 of Scheduled Conflicts. I won't give out too many details about it, though I will say that it is going to be a lot more compacted than the open world that Eos was in the original Scheduled Conflicts. I've wanted to explore things as a DM that I've never explored before. I kind of wanted to dust off like old gameplay mechanics that I've never worked with as a DM and see if I can actually handle those sorts of things. I mean, things like the environment, survival, grid-based exploration. I've always been an advocate of like open world gameplay, but now I want to see if I can handle a more I wouldn't say railroad, but more just a smaller gameplay space than an open world.
Yeah, I can dig it, and I bet you will pull it off fabulously. I look forward to season 2. Now it's time for show and tell. Please tell us about this first image here, Gob.
So, funny enough, this first image came from a meme that I saw a long time ago. Essentially, like, I'm not sure if you could look it up, but there's this just giant mountain that's belching out lava and starting to walk on crab legs. And, like, the text just goes, like, now you've done it. You see that mountain in the distance? It is now a walking elemental, and it is heading your way. Seriously, what did you do to piss the DM off?
I think I've seen that. That's hilarious. I love that concept into this
And it's
art.
Yeah, it's like, I saw that image, and I took it seriously. I was just like, I want to do that. I actually want to make that happen. This meme image is the birth of Scheduled Conflicts in the weirdest way possible.
Hell yeah. Awesome, awesome. Tell me about the artist who did this, Gob.
So, I have been working with Gob the Goblin for some time, and they are absolute masters of their craft. This is the first time they've ever had to create a monster, so to speak. So they've gone on record saying how they were really tested and explored new ways of doing things when it came to this one. And I was shocked at how quickly they got this work done. Like, I expected this to be like this week-long endeavor where they were going to be pumping hours into it. No, this took them 5 hours to do. And when I kept getting the updates for it every hour on the hour, I was just jaw to the floor with how impressed I was at their work. If you haven't gotten Gone Goblin's work, you need to at least give them a look, because they are incredible. They've worked with a lot of other Goblin VTubers, including Charity Goblin Ruby. We've made a few comics together with Gone Goblin in the mix, so yeah, go take a look at their stuff. They are incredible artists.
Oh, that's awesome. I have not interacted with Gone Goblin, but after that, I definitely wouldn't mind getting some art. They sound amazing. Links in the description below.
Fair warning, they do some not safe for work stuff, so just be prepared and be warned.
Good disclaimer. All right. Next up, you have a couple of Hero Forge models. Would you like to tell us about this first one?
Yes, so this is going to be your one and only teaser for the next season of Scheduled Conflicts, because these two are some of the NPCs you're going to be dealing with the most during this experience. So our first one is essentially the man in charge of our heroes. This is Lee Grafton, this sort of wizened con man who has found his business in the treasure hunting scheme and has taken it upon himself to recruit a bunch of our players to explore the unexplored areas of Eos for huge profits. And along the way, they're going to be joined with this elven seer, this Ivana Mintleaf. She is this elf that was blind at birth, but has this incredible ability of foresight and divination. She is essentially going to be the one setting the quest markers on the map as she divines the areas and sees where ancient relics or artifacts can be located along the map.
Oh, that's so fun. You heard it here first, folks. Exclusive Gob the Goblin Campaign 2 Insight. Oh, that was so cool, Gob.
Heck yeah.
Well, before I release you from my dungeon, do you have any parting words for the audience?
As my mantra always goes, keep it sweet, everybody.
Nice. I love it. Well, thank you again so much, Gob, for joining me. It was a pleasure having you in my dungeon.
It was a pleasure to be here. So where's the way out?
All right, everybody, good night.
Wait!
Thanks again for joining me, Gob. You can find links to Gob's YouTube and Twitch channels in the description below. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I really appreciate it.